Creepers? My name's Kevin. This is Haunted by Horror, and today I'm talking about the 1987 film I Was a Teenage Zombie. Just to clarify, this movie has nothing to do with either the 1957 film I Was a Teenage Werewolf or the 1959 film Teenage Zombies. Aside from having a similar title to both of these and being inspired by the 50s era in general, this movie is its own thing. This is a movie that a lot of people don't like. It has a 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb. It has a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it has a 2.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I really don't understand why this movie has such low ratings. While today there are countless zombie movies, many made during the early to mid 2000s, which led to a lot of what I refer to as zombie burnout, where audiences just didn't care to see any more zombie movies. And there are even a lot of zombie comedies like Shaun of the Dead, Fido, Night of the Living Dead, and Anna and the Apocalypse, to name a few. But this movie came out in 1987, well before any of those movies. It's low budget and super cheesy. It's basically a John Hughes movie mixed with Return of the Living Dead, and it has a pretty awesome soundtrack. The title track is performed by the Fleshtones, and the music video ties into the movie. It also has the Smithereens, the Violent Femmes, the Waitresses, Los Lobos, Alex Chilton, and tons of other great bands. The plot involves a group of high school friends played by actors who are clearly in their late 20s, who are trying to score some weed for the spring formal. And they aren't having any luck because a large shipment of marijuana was misdirected to the wrong port, and as a result, every dealer in town is dry. But they happen to meet Moose, a low-rent, sort of Cheech Marin character.
My name is Mussolini. My friends call me Moose for short.
That acts as the movie's primary antagonist, who sells them some bad weeds from Mexico that the authorities sprayed with that high toxic shit.
Trying to sell some of these bad weeds from Mexico's.
If you mean the stuff the authorities sprayed with that high toxic shit, man, I wouldn't give that stuff to my mother-in-law.
Well, maybe not.
And so, they try to get their money back. But after he slips on a banana peel, they accidentally kill him by hitting him with baseball bats, tying a 50-pound rock around his leg, and throwing him into a river, which happens to be contaminated with nuclear waste. He comes back as a zombie out for revenge, and after he kills one of their friends, they dump his body into the same river so that he can come back and protect them. This isn't a trauma film, but it has a lot of the same elements as trauma films. It's a low-budget, violent horror comedy with heavy 50 influences. The group hangs out in a soda fountain. One of them is a motorcycle-riding greaser, and Dan's primary love interest is named Cindy Faithful. The villain does eat people in this movie, but it doesn't seem that the zombies are inherently hungry for the flesh of the living, and they seem to retain all of their cognitive functions, so it's never really that much of an issue when one of the main protagonists becomes a zombie. The characters aren't that well developed, but they are all likable, and the plot makes more sense than a lot of low-budget movies. From a technical standpoint, this film is pretty rough. The cinematography lacks cohesion, the sound quality is abysmal. At times it's difficult to understand what anyone's saying, especially in the scenes in the classroom, which have this really bad echo.
Now, what do you want? Hey, carbon chicken, head of cream. The letter C. The letter C. The first letter of the alphabet. She's not with me.
The zombie makeup is pretty lackluster, but it does have some crazy scenes of violence and gore, which are clearly done with a very low budget, but they're still able to do a decent job with these gore effects. There's one scene where a zombie's head gets cut off and it flies onto a table where it's obvious that he's just under these two tables with his head sticking out through a tablecloth, but it works for what the film is. And when they chop his head in half, the two halves of his brain keep throbbing, which is pretty cool. In one scene, Moose pops up from the back seat and rips a guy's face completely off. and in another he rips out this guy's tongue and walks away snacking on it like beef jerky. There is a lot of lowbrow humor in this film, which works most of the time, but at a certain point it does cross the line, and there is one scene in this film that the movie would just be better off without. It involves a sexual assault that's played as a joke, which is not okay, and I really wish that it hadn't been included in this movie or in any movie. And honestly, if the low scores on websites like IMDb and Letterboxd are because of that one scene, I would totally get it. I don't think that that is why it has such low scores on these sites, but if it was, then I would understand that. This film never got an official DVD or Blu-ray release. Almost none of the cast and crew even have pictures on IMDb. I can't find anything else that the director has directed, but it is available to stream on HBO Max, the Criterion channel, and it's available on YouTube. This definitely isn't a movie for everyone, but it is a pretty fun watch. I personally have a lot of nostalgia for this movie because the first time that I watched it was sometime in the early 90s on a videotape that also had Nightmare on Elm Street 4 recorded on it. And rewatching it now, I found that for the most part it was enjoyable, aside from the scene that I already mentioned. And I don't know why I never hear anyone bring up this movie. It seemingly has everything that makes a great cult movie. And I definitely recommend checking it out. That's really all I have to say. Thanks for watching my video. If you like this video, you can hit the like button. You can also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. And turn on notifications so that you'll be updated whenever I upload a new video. Alright, have a good night.